All right. Well, good morning, everybody. We're getting quite a few people logged in, and so I'm just going to go ahead and talk over that now and kind of save some of the boring stuff, but just a little bit of house cleaning. Good morning. This is Paul Sharon. I'm from Premier Senior Marketing. So thank you all for joining us this morning today. Many of you are familiar with our firm, Premier Senior Marketing, but for those of you that aren't, we welcome you to this event and hope to talk to you very soon. So just like you, we all have a product, if not a lot of products. Today, we are just simply setting all product aside and putting on this presentation to help you market your business and to really set yourself apart from the crowd and really be of greater value to your prospects or even existing clients. Today, this is about you growing your book of business. And we all know that you have a choice in who you do business with. And for those of you already working with Premier, I mean, first of all, thank you for your business. And for those of you looking for more than just a product, please consider Premier Senior Marketing for your senior market needs. We certainly have a lot to offer, including Medicare quoting tools and our always popular lead co-op. But really most important of all is the support and expertise that we provide to help you grow your business that makes us stand apart from the crowd and from others. All right, so let's get on with the show. I know everybody's time is important here. Today, United Healthcare has lent us Heather Heineke and her vast experience on the LIS marketplace. I know that you're going to find this information very useful for your business, and for those of you appointed with Premier Senior Marketing, these materials will be made available to you for later review and later use, as well as my team and your marketing team here at Premier will be in touch with you here shortly. So with that, in just a moment, we're going to turn this over to Heather. And Heather, I say thank you in advance, and I will let you take it away here in just a moment.
Perfect. Thank you. Okay. Good morning, everyone. Let me make sure that everyone can see my screen. So hopefully that is showing up properly. So thank you so much for inviting me here this morning. I do appreciate it. It's great to see so many of you on this call. This is one of our most popular trainings. What we're going to be going over today is not just LIS, but we call this training LIS Plus. So we're going to be going through, today it's really just a few sheets or a few pages on what LIS is, but the majority of it is just like Paul said. It's how do you use LIS to build relationships in your communities. So with that, we'll go ahead and get started. LIS is a federal program that helps people pay for their prescriptions. For those of you who don't know a lot about LIS, and we're maybe hoping that's what this was, you will definitely want to look to take a more in-depth course on LIS. So United Healthcare offers a number of them every single month that you can jump on, and they do an awesome job walking through all of the ins and outs. So you should receive those calendars from your agent managers, or you can also log on to the agent portal and see those there. So that will go through more details about that, but again, we're going to focus on how you use that out there. So a quick look at what LIS benefits include. It can help cover all or part of the Part D plan premium. It can cover the annual deductible, which, as you know, in a number of plans have that now on certain tiers. The biggest place where people see savings with LIS is in covering or lowering their coinsurance and their copays. So whereby they may have been paying $40, $60, $70, they find their prescriptions under $6, even their brand prescriptions. Coverage in the gap is a big one. You know, a lot of people that we work with, they hit that gap and they're responsible, right, for 50% of that cost until they hit the catastrophic limit. If you can help someone to get LIS, they don't have that gap. What happens is when they hit it, they simply continue to pay their copays, and that's it. And another big thing with LIS is that it will waive the Part D late enrollment penalty if someone has one. For those of you who've been doing this for a while, I'm sure you've run into someone who had a penalty because they didn't feel like they needed Part D, and so they never took it. And now they're looking at a 1% penalty per month for every month that they didn't have it that they should have. So there are a lot of great benefits for LIS that people can get. And the great thing and why this is an opportunity for you as an agent is because most people don't realize that LIS exists. Their understanding is that if they need help, they would have to qualify for Medicaid. And most of them feel as though if I don't have, if I make too much money or if I have any assets or resources, I'm never going to qualify. So this is really how you become that person who brings that information to them. And that's why what we're going to go through today and how you do that has proven to be very successful by agents who have utilized it. So here is a quick look at what the qualification levels are for someone who qualifies for LIS. Now you will see here that it still has 2016 numbers. We typically, every year it seems to be a little bit earlier. February, March, April, around then is when we will get the newly updated 2017 numbers. But if you are trying to help someone apply right now, these are the numbers that you will use. However, I want to stress very strongly, don't get stuck on these numbers. I will have agents say, oh, I met with this couple and, they made $24,300. Don't get stuck on the numbers. My suggestion is simply fill out the application and let Social Security come back and find out if they qualify, because there are things that they can pull up that may allow them to qualify. So always just fill it out, because that really goes a long way, and we'll talk about that in a little bit here. So you can see that the yearly gross income levels are pretty high. And where people get confused and what's really important for you to know are what those resource levels are. Because many people, and I will tell you, we have done a ton of this out in the field, most people feel like if I'm going to get any kind of help, I can't have any kind of assets or resources. And that's where they are wrong. And that's where you get to be that person that shows them that, yes, you can have assets and resources and still qualify for help. So, for example, married couple, $27,000. Now, I will say that what does and doesn't count for assets and resources, the house that they live in does not count. The car that they drive does not count. Life insurance policy they may have does not count. So they can have a house, they can have a car, and on top of that, they can have that $27,000 worth of assets. So they may own some land, they may have money in savings, they may have a CD, they may have a retirement plan. So they can still have those things and still qualify for LIS, which is the big reason why we find people just don't know about this, because they assume that if they have any of those things, they aren't going to qualify. Now, why we love LIS is because it's an SEP, right? So right now, we are in January. We have a long time till AEP comes again. And this, if you can help someone qualify for LIS, it opens up an SEP for them. And if they need to change a plan, if they need to, whatever it is they may need to do, they can now do that with LIS. Okay, so as I mentioned, my little update on LIS was going to be very short and sweet. We're going to spend the rest of the time now talking about how you use that, the steps you need to take to use LIS and build relationships where you live. So again, if by the time we finish this webinar you like this approach, then I highly encourage you to get onto one of United's LIS webinars where they will go through in detail much more information on LIS. But what we're going to spend the rest of the time talking about is how can you use this to build relationships in the community. And in this business, you guys, that is key, right? We unfortunately aren't just getting leads every day, right, handed to us. So the way to build your business is to form relationships with influencers of the people you're trying to enroll, right? So whether you're going to a food bank or a mobile home park or a senior center or apartment complex, what is awesome about this approach is you can use it anywhere. And so we're going to walk through how you do that, okay, and why it works. And really why it works is it's not salesy. And I will tell you, I was an agent out in the field, and I got a lot of pushback when I would go in with a straight-up sales approach. You know, people who, one, couldn't focus on a certain company, or two, didn't want to feel like they were pushing their people towards a certain company or a certain product. So when you go in with LIS, it's none of those, right? You are bringing information on a benefit that a lot of people qualify for that they don't know about. So it's a very easy way in the door, and we have found this with the agents who have used this. This is how they're getting their relationship started. They're going in with LIS, and that's what we're going to teach you here today is how to do that. So LIS is estimated to be worth $3,900 per year. So all of those things I went through on, you know, the lesser co-pays and coverage during the gap, Social Security estimates that if you help someone qualify for LIS, it will save them $3,900 every single year. So what does that mean, right? Now that's a number that you want to know. And when you are going into a place that you want to start a relationship with, and this is one of the hardest things sometimes for us as sales agents to get, right? Like we're going in and what do we want? We want apps, we want sales, like we know what we want. However, if you go in with your own agenda, you're going to get shut down. So think about what does this mean to where you're going? If you go in and talk to a food bank director, what could helping one of their clients save $3,900 a year mean to them? Now, I've done a lot of work with food banks, and I will tell you that I'm not sure I ever went into a food bank that didn't have a waiting list, okay? And I encourage you, when you go in and you talk to these places, step back a little bit. Don't do all the talking. Ask them questions. Get to learn things about them. One of the best questions to ask at a food bank is how many families do you serve and do you have a waiting list? Because if they have a waiting list, and like I said, I haven't run into one yet that doesn't, that's your way in here. You know, well, you know, what this program can do is if we can save some of your families $3,900 a year, maybe instead of having to come in every week for a food box, they're able to stretch it out and come in every other week. And then you're going to have some more spots that you can pull in more families off of your wait list. Same thing holds true with any kind of housing complex, right? If people are feeling stressed out about money and they're trying to think, hey, I've got to pay for my prescriptions or pay my rent, there's a good chance they are chasing people around trying to get paid. So if you could come into their facility and help their families apply for LIS, potentially save $3,900 a year, maybe they wouldn't have to be chasing so many people around come the beginning of the month. So always be thinking about how could that help them. That is how you are going to get in there. Now, when you actually meet with the influencer, and you have a number of ways to do this. So I've had agents who call and set up an appointment first, and I've had agents who just walk in there. It's whatever you feel most comfortable with. I will tell you, I have seen both ways work. But the idea here is for you to get in front of that decision maker, that influencer. So again, if you go to a mobile home park, you can't be knocking on doors to see if people qualify. But you can go and talk to that manager and see if you can set something up. And what we call these are LIS clinics. And more or less what that is you go, you set up a time with them to sit there, and their people come and you help them apply for LIS. Okay, so we're going to walk through the items that we have found to be very successful for you to bring with you. Now, what's great is on the agent toolkit, you can order, and I don't believe there's a cost to them, folders, United Healthcare folders. I know for sure that we have them on the dual SNP side, where you can put all of these items in there. The idea is really for you to look very professional when you go out there. So however you decide to arrange the things that we're going to walk through, you don't want to walk in with just a pile of papers, because you're going to want to kind of go through different things, and it will be much easier to show them. And I have an idea in here in a few slides that I will share with you. Information on LIS. If you remember, I said most people have never heard of this, and you will be shocked the places that you go that you think they should know about it, that they don't. When we went to food banks, no idea. We would ask them, what happens when, you have a family that's really struggling, but they don't qualify for Medicaid? Well, we see how if we can help them with more food. So you will find that a lot of people, even a lot of organizations, don't know what LIS is. And so when you start talking about it, it also sounds a little too good to be true. So the more information you can have on it, the better that is going to be. So Chubby Checker, okay, he's the face of LIS, and this is actually a brochure that you can pick up from Social Security or Medicare. Now, you can download it online, but it's not quite the same. So I encourage you to stop by and pick up a stack. It definitely helps, but it walks through the information on what LIS is. So some of the basic things that we just went through. And because it shows that it's from Social Security, it's not too good to be true, right? It's not you making something up. An LIS flyer is another critical piece. Now, hopefully all of you are familiar with United Healthcare's Agent Toolkit. And if you get into the Agent Toolkit, which has a ton of different flyers and postcards and pre-approved materials for you to be able to customize with your own name and phone number, and a lot of them now have your own picture you can put on there. There is an entire folder on LIS. And what you are going to want to do is to print a sample flyer, okay? Now, of course, when you're walking into a place, you aren't going to know what day and time you're going to set up for one of these LIS clinics, but having a sample of this is critical. I will tell you, we got pushback a lot of times because these directors are busy, and if they don't understand LIS, they might as well just forget about it. They're like, okay, I don't know how to even market for this because I don't get it, so we're not going to do it. So you want to have this to say, listen, I'm going to make this really easy for you. These are the flyers. When you and I come up with a date and time, I'm going to go back to my office, get these personalized with this information, and I'll get you as many as you need. If you want to post them, you want to hand them out, whatever you want to do, okay? So this is a very important piece to have because you will get pushback if they don't get it. A sign-up sheet, okay? So typically what happens is you will set up a time frame to be there. Might be 9 to 12, might be 9 to 1, might be a whole day. And when they send that out, those flyers out or post them that says, could you use some help with your prescriptions, you're going to get interest. Now, what you don't want is 10 people showing up all at the same time, right? And so that's where this sign-up sheet comes in. Now, a couple things that I want to point out on this sign-up sheet. You can see here that we have two different time slots, or the same time slot 2 times. This is one that was created by agents that partnered up and did this together. So they were able to see twice as many people. The other thing to notice is the amount of time. So when you get good at this, it should only take you a half an hour for each appointment. Starting out, I would give yourself an hour and work backwards, just so you can see the timing that it is taking you to do it. But you need to make sure your appointments are one-on-one, and so that's where this sign-up sheet becomes critical. So again, when you set up that meeting with that manager or director, you go back, you kind of update this, and then this sign-up sheet goes back to that director to be able to get people to sign up for a spot with you. Now, everything we do, as you all know, revolves around compliance. And so we had to run this entire presentation through compliance, and the biggest thing that they said is that as an agent, you should not have that sign-up sheet once it's filled out. And really, you don't need it, okay? You don't need to know if John Smith or Mary Bell is coming to see you. You just need to make sure it's one person at a time. So that shouldn't affect you whatsoever. Now, the other thing that you will need to have is the LIS checklist. And as Paul mentioned at the beginning, a number of these items will be sent out to those of you who are contracted with Premier. And so this LIS checklist lets them know what information you're going to need to know. So just like you don't want to get bombarded by 10 people, you also don't want them to come unprepared. So this LIS checklist, along with the sign-in sheet, is something you will give the director so that as someone signs up for a time slot, they get this LIS checklist. So it's a 2-page document, and I enlarge the back so you can see what it is, but you want them to come prepared. It is not going to help you or them if they don't know if they get $800 or $1,200 worth of income, okay? So they can either fill this out or they can bring the information with them. But you want them to be prepared so that the time is well spent when they are meeting with you. This is something that I highly encourage all of you to create. We call this our United Healthcare Presentation Kit. And as I mentioned, there's lots of pieces we just went through, right, that you want to share with that manager or director. The more professional that you can look when you are out meeting with a manager or director, the better off it is going to look. So we created this, and this is a briefcase item, okay? So this isn't something you're giving to each place. So I think I got that binder. It's a nice, like, leather out binder with the front sheet for $25 at Staples, I think. So you get that. You get some of the plastic sheets, and all those things that we just went through, you put in. So when you sit down with them, it's really easy to walk through, right? You're just flipping the pages. You're not having to shuffle through a pile of papers. Now, something else that we use this for, and this is critical. So LIS is just your way in the door, okay? LIS is not paying you if you get someone on there. It is just a great door opener to the relationship that you are looking for. So what we did in this binder, and if you look closely towards the top right of the binder, you see a little tab that says LIS. So we put that information in there first. But then we had separate tabs, and we had a couple brochures on the Dual Complete Plan, MA, Med Sup, Part D, Medicare Made Clear. And all of these items you can order between the agent portal and the toolkit, or if you live close enough to a United Healthcare office, they typically have some of those in stock that you might be able to just go and pick up. But what you want this facility to look to you as is their Medicare resource, right? Anything having to do with Medicare, you are able to help them. Now, I will strongly stress the Medicare Made Clear information. Do not skip that. Make sure you order information on Medicare Made Clear. Probably more than, or just as much as LIS, we receive the ask to come and talk about Medicare. That, you know, food banks, the people working there got lots of questions about Medicare, but they didn't really get it. So make sure Medicare Made Clear is a part of your packet to be able to share. Because again, you want them ultimately, you're getting in with LIS, but ultimately you want them to look to you as your Medicare resource. Now, one of the things we talk about when we talk about how relationships happen and how successful relationships happen, it doesn't just happen off of one visit. Sometimes I'll hear from agents, oh, well, I dropped flyers off at this office or at this food bank, and I never got a call. Okay, well, when did you go back? Well, I didn't. I just dropped off the flyers. Okay, that is not going to get you referrals. They need to get to trust you, okay? And I try and give the example sometimes of if you as an insurance agent, right, all of a sudden got an email from a financial planner that you didn't know who they were, and they said, listen, I'm this great financial planner. I've got a great product. You send me all of your clients, and I'll get them taken care of. Now, chances are that's not what you're going to do until you get to know that person, right? They follow up with you. They show up on a regular basis. They do what they say they're going to do. It's no different with any of these places, okay? One of the key things to know is they say that statistically it takes 5 touch points before a relationship is started, and most agents stop after 3. Okay, so don't give up. You have to understand that the people, these food bank directors, mobile home park managers, senior center directors, they have to protect their families and their clients. So they aren't going to just send people to you if they don't know you without getting to know you. So LIS is that door opener, right? So get in there and do a couple clinics. But then what's going to happen is you're going to start building that relationship. What else do you guys need? Hey, we'd really like to learn some stuff on Medicare Made Clear. Awesome. When can I come in? So be setting stuff up. The next time they may say, oh, we have some people who are dual eligible. You know, I know you mentioned you have a plan. Sure. What would you like me to do? So you start building that relationship, and that is what is going to get you referrals. Now, what that also gets you come AEP time is preset relationships that you ought to be able to have events set up come AEP for those people who maybe don't qualify for LIS. We're going to talk about that, how you get those, but already those relationships are established then for AEP. So the one thing that you are not going to find in your presentation kits, and I'm telling you this because you will get this in the email of items, okay? The one thing that you do not share is the actual LIS application. And the reason for that, and I will tell you that we painfully learned this from personal experience, is that the application is so simple that if they see it, they will thank you for letting them know about LIS, and they will say they will take care of it themselves. Okay? So you want to let them know about LIS, but you don't want to let them know how easy it really is. So what we will be sending out to you is a sample application that if you like this approach, read through it, make sure you understand it. When I say sample, it literally tells you what you need to fill out, why you need to fill it out, and all of that. This is just kind of a first page that you see right here. But get to know that application, but do not share it. All right, so a question that you need to be prepared to answer, because you will hear it in one way or another. And every place that we went into with this approach, we were asked, right? Because you're introducing yourself. They know that you're an insurance agent, and yet everything you've talked about up until this point has nothing to do with a sale, right? So they're going to ask you, what's in this for you? Why are you doing this, right? And so one of the best things that you can do is to really talk about the SEP, okay? I will tell you that if you look at that list of things that you are asking people to bring, right, people aren't just going to come and see you just to come and see you. The people who are going to take the time to come and see you are the people who are having problems, right? They feel like they're paying too much money and they can't afford it. They're hitting the coverage gap and can't afford it. Prescriptions on their current plan aren't being covered and they need to find something different. If they are taking the time to put all of that stuff together, they're having a problem. And that's what you can explain to them, that the people who are going to come and see you are having a definite problem. It's a lot of information they have to pull together. So if they're doing it, they need some help. Right now, without LIS, they're stuck, right? They can't make a change that will go into effect until January 1st. That's practically an entire year from now. However, if you can help them to qualify for LIS, it instantly opens up an SEP for them, which means that they can then find another plan that will help them with getting rid of those problems they are having. And then that's how you explain where you come in. So that's where I come in. As an agent, I represent a number of companies, and I can look at a number of different products that are out there, and I will help them, if they so desire, find a plan that is going to solve their problem. Now, if we do that, and if they find something that works, and that's their choice, then what happens is that company pays me a commission. However, there is no charge to you, to your organization, to their family, or anything for this service of mine. And that has ended it, okay? So their main concern is it still sounds too good to be true, and they're afraid that somewhere down the line they're going to get a bill from you. So you want to be upfront and honest that you will get paid if you're able to, if you put them onto a plan. But also, remember, keep in mind, they are very protective of the people that they work with. Make sure that it is very clear that your intent all along is to help that person. And it's up to them if you help them, but just be very clear. You definitely don't want to say, oh, no, 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 I'm just doing LIS, because that's not true, okay? The idea is to get in for sales. But on the flip side, please don't say that Heather Heineke from United told you that this was your shoe-in way in the door to come in and get sales, okay? So that's what it is, but just be very honest. And again, always be thinking in your head, what is important to them, okay? And taking care of their clients and their patients is what's important to them. So as long as you can always show that that is your intent, they've been satisfied with that answer. Don't forget to register it, okay? This is sometimes what we find a common mistake, because again, we're not talking about sales here, we're talking about LIS. But why you register it is, if you don't register it, they fill out the application for LIS, you have no right, I guess, to be able to call them. You have to get a lead card, and the only way you can get a lead card is if you have it registered. So register it as an informal sales event, which allows you to be able to get a lead card. Okay, so we've already kind of talked about your meeting with the manager or director, the things you bring to share with them, the things you'll bring back to them, right, once you've gone back and personalized them to be able to promote the event. Now it's coming down to the event. What are those things you need to bring with you? Lead cards, right? Don't forget the lead cards. That's the most important thing. You've got to be able to get them to fill out that lead card. The preferred method for filling out the LIS application, and you'll learn this in the long United class on LIS, is online. So laptop, wireless access, power cord. If you don't have, for example, a hotspot on your phone or a wireless, card to use, check and see if they have Wi-Fi that you can tap into. If not, see if they have a public computer with the internet that you can use. So those are big questions you want to make sure of. Bring that presentation kit, because what's going to happen is that you are going to you're going to get there, right? And someone's going to meet with you, and they're not going to know what LIS is either. All they're going to know is they saw a flyer that said, could you use some help paying for your prescriptions? And they know that answer is yes. So you want to be able to talk to them about what the benefits of LIS is. Now bring extra flyers and extra business cards, because I will tell you, once they get it and see what the benefits are, you're going to hear about their brother, their neighbor, their friend who they think could also qualify. So make sure you have your information to have them be able to reach out to you. And you also want to bring some printed applications. Again, this is not the preferred method, and they make it very difficult for you to get these. So the ones that you can find online are just the samples, okay? So if you want an actual application, you have to pick some up from Social Security or Medicare. It's worth it to have a couple. So when you go down there to pick up your brochure, see if you can get some, because every once in a while you will run into someone that doesn't feel comfortable putting that kind of information into the computer. So it's nice to have a paper application if you need it. And then a notebook, okay? And we're going to talk about the things that you do with that notebook. So what's not on that list, right? So we're talking about what you need to bring when you are executing the LIS clinic. No kits, no provider directories. Now, there's a caveat with that. I will tell you that 9 times out of 10, the only reason you're able to get in that door is because you aren't talking about a certain company, you're not talking about a certain product, okay? And they will be very clear in that initial meeting with you what they're looking for. And so most of them will say, okay, I just want to make sure that you're just doing LIS, okay? And so if that is the consensus that you come up with, make sure that you are not bringing kits or directories and kind of giving the guys that you are doing sales. Now, that's a perfect point, though, to tell them, listen, I won't. However, just understand that if they want me to help them further, if they get it, to find it, I'll just do something on a one-on-one basis with them at their request. Is that okay? And we've never gotten any pushback with that. Now, every once in a while, you'll get lucky, and a manager will say, hey, listen, I know we have people who have questions about a specific plan. Can I send them to you while you're here? Absolutely, right? You've got it registered as an informal sales event. So if someone comes, they want to talk to you, they want to sign up, you have it registered. The key here is just make sure you are doing whatever it is that that manager or director wants, because they will become either your best referral or your worst critic. So just make sure that you both are on the same page with that. So when you're filling out the online application, this is one of the key things that you will use that notebook for. There is a timeout function on that, okay? It gives you so much time to get the application filled out before it times out. You want to write down the reentry number when you get started. That way, if it times out on you, all that you need to do is type that number back in, and all the information you had typed in will show up. You won't have to retype any of it. So what happens when you're finished, right? So let's say that I have my LIS clinic and Paul comes and sits down with me, right? We fill out the application. Now what happens, right? If you remember what I said, is he gets up and leaves without filling out a lead card, I don't have permission to call him. So that's really where that notebook is also going to come in. For each person that you meet with, you want to put their name, and you want to put their reentry number, right, if you need to get back in, but you also want to put why they are there to see you. And they'll tell you, right? We know how it is when we're out working with our Medicare prospects. They love to talk about, you know, problems and things like that. Write that down. Because if you meet with 10 people during the course of a day, you're going to forget, but it is critical to know that, because you've got to pull that back into kind of your sales pitch on why they need to fill that lead card out. So if Paul says to me, you know, I've got these 2 prescriptions that, you know, are on my current plan that, you know, or that I have to take that aren't being covered. So I'm hitting the coverage gap, and it's really stressing me out financially every single month. Write that down, because when you finish, Paul could get up and say, oh, you know, I'll get the letter and we'll see what happens. So you need to know that to be able to go back. So the first thing that you should do, and again, we will be sending out to you this sample award letter, is to pull this letter out. This is another thing that I would put in that presentation kit and show this to them. And you can see the time frames on the screen. So if you do it online, they get this in 10 to 14 days, and paper is 21 to 28 days. So that's a big difference, okay? People want that instant gratification. They stay excited, they stay motivated when they get it faster. It's another reason to really push for the online application. So share that with them. Take the letter and put it in front of them. Now, the reason why I encourage you to take it out of your presentation kit and give it to them is because it is multiple pages, okay? It is not just this one page that you see right here. And, you know, take it and flip it over so that they see. The last one I saw, and I don't think they've changed it, is about 4 pages, okay? Now, why you do that, okay, is because you want them to need you to go through it with you, right? So how we have trained agents to do it, excuse me, is to show them the letter and to flip it and to say, okay, so this is what you are going to receive in the mail from Social Security in the next 10 to 14 days. Now, I know that there is a lot of information in here, and I don't want you to think that when we're finished meeting today that you're never going to hear from me again, okay? I know that you talked to me about those 2 prescriptions that are really causing you a hard time every single month, and I want to be able to help you with that. I also want to make sure you understand this letter, because there's lots of information in here. And then that's when you go into the lead card, right? And so that's when you go into the lead card. And every agent has their way of bringing up the lead card, right? I know for me, I was always just upfront about it, right? Because sometimes they felt a little weird filling it out. I was like, you know what? Medicare has some systems in place that are meant to protect you so that you aren't getting a ton of phone calls from people you don't want calling you. So they have us, if you want to continue working with me, they just have asked that you fill this out that says, yes, I have permission to call you. And so this is what, if you'd like me to help you find a plan once we see what happens here, help you understand this letter, then all that you need to do is fill out this card. Okay, so that part you can work whatever way works for you, or you can use a way that always worked for me, and that was just kind of just being upfront with this is meant to protect you, so that I'm the only one who would call you. So every single person should turn into a lead, and that's the other reason why this approach is awesome, okay? Because they're either going to qualify for LIS or they aren't. But I'm going to show you why each one should turn into a lead. So let's say we get those lead cards filled out, right? So make sure that you are diligent about putting that in your calendar to follow up with them. So when you follow up with them, okay, so 10, 14 days go by and I call Paul, right? Now make sure you also let them know that they can call you if they get the letter before you call them, right? So keep that thing going. So you're going to get one of two answers when you call. Yes, the letter said that I qualify, or no, the letter said that I don't qualify. And each one of those has a way to make it work. So if I call Paul and Paul says, yep, my letter says that I qualify. Now again, 2 weeks may have gone by and I may have met with 10 people. This is another reason why writing down why they met with you is important, because Paul may say, cool, I remember you said my copays are going to be lower and all that. That's awesome. So there may not be any reason to meet with you, right? So you need to remind him why he came to you in the first place. You know what, Paul, I'm so excited that your letter says that you qualify for LIS. I remember when we met, those 2 prescriptions that are on your current plan that are really causing you a hard time. Guess what? Now we're going to be able to sit down and find a plan that is going to cover those 2 prescriptions. And instead of you having to wait until January of next year, we can find that plan and you can start it the beginning of next month. When does it work for us to get together? Okay, so you still need to sell them then on why they need to get together with you. Because just because they qualified for LIS, you aren't getting paid for that. So remembering why and being able to repeat that back to them is really, really important. So at that point, okay, they say yes, you need to get a scope of appointment, because now you're going to meet with them and talk about MA, PDP, DSNP, MedSup options, okay? Now, let's say you get the answer of no. Okay, Paul tells me no, it says that I don't qualify. Now remember what I said at the beginning, right? Even if you don't think someone is going to qualify, fill out the application, okay? We had agents in Arizona that were working in Scottsdale, okay? And they said, gosh, I have people here that I know that they are not going to qualify. And yet, you know what? They turned into clients. And do you want to know why? Because they were so grateful that that agent tried to help them, right? It doesn't matter where they live. If someone feels like they are having a hard time paying for their prescriptions, they need help in their mind. So even though Social Security may come back and say, I'm sorry, you don't qualify, they are so thankful that you tried, that you turn them into a lead for what we call your AEP pipeline. So if Paul were to tell me no, listen, the letter says I don't qualify. Paul, you know what, I'm sorry to hear that. I know you've had those 2 prescriptions that are really giving you a hard time. So let me tell you what can happen from here. Unfortunately, we aren't able to make a change at this time. Nothing is going to be able to change until January 1st. However, come October 1st, I am going to know what all of the new plans are going to look like for 2018. How about I give you a call as soon as you are able to make that change? You and I can get together and we can make sure that we find a plan that we can change you into as soon as possible to help you get rid of that problem that you're having, okay? So then what you do is you take that lead card and you write on there your conversation and when you need to call them. So what should happen then by the time October rolls around is you should have a very nice stack of leads for your AEP pipeline. And a lot of those will be MA, MedSup sales, because they were people who didn't qualify for LIS but are so grateful for you trying to help them. And that's what makes this approach so awesome. Now, follow-up, okay? I know I mentioned that monthly touches to places in the community are very important. One of the other big things to do is send a thank you note. I can't tell you how far that goes because most people don't do that these days, right? Send a thank you note to that manager, to that director. Now, you can't give them specifics, right? Like I can't say, oh, I met with Paul Sharon, we got them all set up for LIS. But you could say, listen, I met with 10 people and half of them we were able to get the LIS benefit for. And trust me, they will be going to that manager and director and thanking them for having you come because they are saving money. That person, that manager or director, then becomes an awesome referral source for you, okay? And you can tell them, you know, listen, we're out in the field all the time, and we find people who qualify for this benefit that just don't know about it. And one of the things we want to do is get that word out to people. And so ask, do you know of any other food bank directors? That's how a lot of our agents have lots of relationships. They get this started, they show some results, and then they go back and they ask, hey, do you know of any other apartment complex managers that I could reach out to and do the same thing there? This works awesome as a cold call, but it works even more awesome when you have a warm lead. But follow-up is a very key piece to this. Now, one of the other things that you will receive in the email is additional information on LIS. So for those of you who like this approach, who think, you know what, I think this could work for me, this is a document, it's about 33 pages long, that just goes into more information about what happens on the back end when the application gets to LIS. There's also really great articles between Social Security and Medicare websites that if you like this, I encourage you to go in there and read and learn as much as you can about LIS. And again, take the online webinar that United Healthcare offers. It's awesome, and it will walk you through the application question by question, answer a lot more questions on that piece of it than what we went through today. And so with that, I know that due to the number of you on the call today that we aren't opening it up for questions, but Paul and his team at Premier, I'm going to pass it back over to them. And just want to say thank you so much again for having me, and I hope that you learned a great way that a lot of agents are using that they are having success with in building those relationships out in their communities. So thank you. And Paul, I'll pass it back to you.
Well, thank you, Heather. As always, I think this is one of those opportunities to use this concept as a, I think as you mentioned, as a foot into the door. And just for everybody on the call, we certainly want to extend that this is a beginning, not an end, and welcome you to work with us to take it to some next steps, get those lead cards, get the presentations, and the documents that Heather has referred to, and we'll certainly be following up and speaking with you shortly. So again, thanks everybody for the time, and Heather, to you as well. Great, thanks to you for coming, and we'll follow up with everybody here shortly.
Great, thank you.